All right, so we're starting this edition of the show in a triumphant mood. Two nations of the Windward Islands had historic Saturdays as both St. Lucia and Dominica won their first Olympic gold medals. Julien Alfred stormed to 10.72 seconds to convincingly win the women's 100-meter final ahead of the favorite, Sha'Carri Richardson, while LaFond leaped to an impressive 15.02 meters to win the women's triple jump ahead of her Caribbean compatriots, Jamaica's Shanika Ricketts. Well, the Prime Ministers of both St. Lucia and Dominica spoke to SportsMax about the accomplishments of their athletes.
St. Lucia is joyous. St. Lucia is feeling proud because we are feeling proud because we really made history. Julien Alfred is a daughter of St. Lucia, and she made it. But she has that potential has been in her from childhood, and she's grown, she's matured, she's exercised the necessary discipline and commitment, and now she is out on the world stage, the world 100-meter champion.
It was difficult for myself personally to watch the entire competition. It was really nail-biting and very nerve-wracking. But we are very excited in Dominica, I can tell you. I mean, this is the first for us. One can appreciate our size, population-wise, and all of the other considerations. And PLF has certainly done it for us, and it's an immense sense of national pride. And as I've said to the nation, I can't think of no other time when we've had such sense of pride outside of the time that we declared our independence in 1978.
All right, Clayton. So we just heard from both prime ministers, and I said at the top of the show, what a time to be leading your country, especially when you get such sweet rewards. Want to cue in on one of the things that the St. Lucia prime minister said. He spoke about, Julien Alfred having potential from a very, very young age, and of course representing her country on an international stage and becoming very, very successful. What did you take away from what both prime ministers said, other than they're, of course, glowing with happiness and pride because they've done it, finally?
Yeah, and what I hope, though, is what I've been saying for years now, that it's time the Caribbean started to take sports a little bit more seriously. You see the visibility, the awareness now of the world on St. Lucia and Dominica. Normally people don't talk about these countries, but now they're talking about them. Why? Because Julien Alfred is the Olympic champion. LaFond is the Olympic champion. Sport is a business, and what I think needs to happen now is the reality that if more resources are put into helping develop the talent is right across the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just in Jamaica, it's not just in Trinidad, it's not just in Barbados, it's right across the Caribbean. And Julien Alfred is the perfect example of that. But you look at the size of St. Lucia, 180,000 people, and they have an Olympic gold medalist. So there are countries that have been at the Olympics for many, many years who've never won a gold medal. And I think the reality now is sets in that this is possible, and it's a good example for others to follow. Yeah. Similar with LaFond. Yes. I remember at the press conference after the victory press conference, about 3 reporters were asking the same questions. What can you tell us about Dominica? And she gave them geographical location, that their native language is English, and now they have Olympic gold medalists. These things bring visibility to your country.
I agree.
And it brings tourists, it brings visitors, people who probably would not have known about these countries before, are now possibly going to start thinking, hey, we need to probably pay a visit, do some research. And I'm sure that Google was busy over the weekend, people Googling St. Lucia and Dominica after these significant accomplishments.
Yeah, I love that for them. And St. Lucia, a very, very beautiful country. I've had the opportunity to visit the country, really enjoyed my time. But I want to use your expertise for something else this afternoon, just to talk about the execution of that race, Clayton, by Julien Alfred. Let's start with her first. Explosive start. She was going up against Sha'Carri Richardson. And for me, because of the personality of Sha'Carri, the confidence of her as an athlete, it's always in the back of my mind, how does other athletes line up against her? Similar to the Noah Lyles one, which we'll talk about later on. But I want you to really break down what you saw from a Julien Alfred, who a lot of people were even tipping to win the race, right? It wasn't only
me.
Right. So it's not like everybody was just saying Sha'Carri was going to take this one. A lot of eyes and a lot of bets were on Julien Alfred. I just want to put that out there.
But what you saw from Julien and Alfred was probably the closest she's come to executing a perfect race. It still wasn't as perfect as I'm sure she and her coach would have liked, but it was good enough to win. 10.72 in driving rain. The wind minus 0.1 meters per second tells you that she's in 10-6 shape. She got a good start. Her transition was really solid and her acceleration was phenomenal. She actually separated herself from the rest of the field and nobody could catch her. When you look at what Sha'Carri clearly wasn't confident. I said on Friday that whoever won that semi-final heat would have won, and Julien won that semi-final comfortably. Sha'Carri shut down about 20 meters from the line, but so did Julien as well. It told me that Julien was in the shape of her life.
Yeah.
And once she executed properly, that gold medal was going to be hers. And I thought what she did, when you looked at all the different phases of a race, was as close to as... Look, there's no such thing as a perfect race, really, because there are always mistakes happening. But if there was, I'm sure her coach would have been very happy with how she pulled that race off.
Yeah.
And I think all the phases were good enough to get her that time, incredible time of 10.72.
Yeah, and with the time that we have, just a quick comment on Tia Clayton, because a lot of eyes were on her. We heard from her coach before. You know, many people were expecting her to come out there and, you know, make a statement. What did you think about her execution?
I think a couple of things with Tia Clayton. I think when I watched the race, I think her first two steps, I think it seemed to me that she slipped. And then once you don't get that momentum coming to the blocks, it's pretty much gone for the rest of the race.
Yeah.
And I think 11.04, it was a pretty close race all through, because 11.04 is not far off 10.87 that came second. So if she had not had that misstep early in the race, I think she probably would have done a lot better. But still, for 19 years old, she turns 20 on August 18, I think. Very good performance from her. And what we saw in the semifinal, 10.89 tells you that she's a lot closer to these ladies than they probably would have realized. Had she been able to execute in the final, she probably would have been on the podium.
Yeah. Well, we're going to move across. So can I say jump across to the triple jump, Clayton? And we had Dominica's LaFond, a woman I have a lot of time for. We interviewed her here on the SportsMax Zone. I know you've done numerous interviews with her, so I'm not even going to get started on that. And then I had a one-on-one chat with her on In Case You Missed It, where I really got to, you know, spend some time talking to her, learning about her personality. She created history for her country, Clayton, and it was so classy. She did it so well. She always says when I speak to her, it only takes one jump, and that's what her coach says to her. She got that opportunity. She took it with both hands, and you know, I think it's so deserving for somebody like her.
Listen, man, Tia has been around for a while now and jumping really well, but not getting the rewards for the hard work that she and her husband, who happens to be her coach, put in to her development. But when she won the world indoor title this year, jumping 15.01 meters, I knew she was going to come to Paris and do something special.
Yeah.
And that's what actually, one conversation that they had was that because of the weather,
yes,
her husband suggested to her that she get a big jump in early, which is what a lot of field event coaches tell their athletes. Yeah. Get a big performance in early, because you never can tell what can happen.
And then you can get tired afterwards too. So you give it your best shot. Yeah,
so she went out there, her second jump, 15.02, big personal best, and it was good enough for her to win gold. I mean, Shanika Ricketts similarly had her best jump this year, 14.87 for silver. But when you look at what Tia has managed to do, especially in the last 2 years, the progress has been significant, and I think that has come down to the lot of work that she and her husband have put into ensuring that she continues to develop as one of the best triple jumpers in the world, and she proved that on the weekend.
And sometimes I feel, Clayton, because we as a Caribbean are so spoiled for medals and making history and everything, we don't recognize the extent of some of these achievements. And I'm so happy because, of course, news coming to hand earlier today that Dominica's Prime Minister, their team has already made the announcement that they're going to name a track after her. And I find this year, and maybe it's just me, that, you know, the achievements are being celebrated very, very quickly, because even after Julien and Alfred won, you know, you just saw this big poster of her up in the airport, right? Yeah. That's where it was taken. So Tia LaFond creating history for her country, and of course, you know, instantly you hear that she's going to be honored. What do you think about that? And just the fact that, can you tell me if there is any other track around the Caribbean that's named after a woman?
can't think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I know there's a Usain Bolt track in Barbados and one in Jamaica, but not a female athlete that would be significant.
So that's a big deal, Leighton.
Yeah, it's a big deal. But I think, if I know Thea the way I think I do, I think she'd rather, well, I'm sure she's honored by that.
Of course.
But I think she'd rather see seed money put into development of sports.
She speaks about that a lot.
In Dominica as well, you know. So, because if she can do it, she's an example for others to follow. 70,000 people, yes, not that many people, but I'm sure there's a lot of talent there that's just waiting to be discovered. And I think what for her would be more meaningful is if they did something in the sense of grassroots programs that will help the young kids to realize their potential. Because as she said, I think in a post-race interview, a post-competition interview, is that she's shown that it can be done.
Yeah,
and
she was speaking to Alex.
Yeah.
I looked at that one.
And so if she can get it done from a tiny island like that, they're sure there are dozens, scores of other kids who would like the opportunity that she's been afforded to be able to do what she did on the weekend.
Yeah, I know you want to have a quick word about Shanika Ricketts when it comes to what she did for a triple jump for Jamaica at this level. So talk to me.
Two-time world champion, silver medalist, but never won an Olympic medal before. Fourth the last time out, and now she got an opportunity to do that, win an Olympic medal, and I think it completes now her global medal haul, because 2 world championship silvers, now an Olympic silver medal, actually, you know, makes her, I mean, right up there along with Tricia Skate-Smith, who won the world championship in 2005. So what we've seen from Shanika is a consistency over the past 5 or 6 years at major championships that now cements her legacy as one of Jamaica's best ever.
Yeah, so really, really top stuff from our Caribbean ladies, you know. Good showing here at Paris 2024. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, because the Olympics is the hot topic right now, we're going to continue with our Olympic discussion. So stay with us.